Welcome back to the Dynasty Football Maniacs. All right, so season's pretty much over. We got some events occurring. We still got the great Super Bowl coming up. We got the Philadelphia Eagles fly, and the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So, with that being said, just real quick, who do you think's going to get it?
I wish none of them would get it,
Oh wow.
but if I had to choose, it'd be the Chiefs because the refs and they done made the point. And after that AFC Championship game, they just showed them again. So unless the Eagles can get over the refs too, it looks like the Chiefs to me.
Well, this is my opinion.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
Me and Stephen A agrees. Uh, Jalen Hurts will come out and play perfectly good, and they're going to win the game. There we go. Fly, Eagles, fly. Uh, so moving on to get away from all that nonsense because it's nonsense right now. Other than that, the Eagles are going to win and they're in the Super Bowl. Um,
You're right. That is nonsense.
we're only four championships away of tying the Great Dallas, and then we're going to put you to shame after that. It's not going to take us but maybe another 5 years to do that. With
Well,
that,
yeah, if you say
yeah,
so.
I said so.
Yeah,
With that
Jalen Hurts
being,
ain't gonna be there that long.
I think we got the next great quarterback Pickens right behind him, right?
Yeah, if you say so.
All right. So the Senior Bowl is started practicing. The game will be February the 1st tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yep.
Yep, tomorrow at 2:30 Central Time. Definitely going to be paying attention to that game tomorrow, trying to pick who I think
Well,
will be the standout.
yesterday was the East West Shrine game.
Yep.
Can I can I give you at least a couple players names that kind of shined in the East West Shrine game?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get a few couple players.
Okay, like I said, I won't dwell on this too much because we got a show to do. But here's a couple of them. The first one that I thought looked pretty good in the game was I might mess up his name, but he's a wide receiver from Eastern Washington, Efton Chisholm the third. He had a pretty good game last night. Another one, which is actually he's in the running back group, is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, the running back from Arizona. He actually had on 11 carries, he had 97 yards and two scores. So I thought that was pretty impressive night for a running back. On defense, I saw the cornerback from Delaware, Tyron Herring. He had a interception in the second quarter, which he looked pretty good. There's an edge that looked good. He's from Cal Poly, so smaller school, but still Cal Poly. Elijah Ponder, an edge. He did pretty good. Along the last one on defense is the cornerback from California, Noel Williams. Those are the few standouts that are I thought were kind of worth mentioning for people if they were looking for some guys that are like going to be in later rounds in your rookie drafts, depending on if you're in the 5 to 7 round range.
So, what did you think about Brady Cook's performance?
I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, I I think he could use a little bit more work, but I'm in all honesty, if he's in the middle range in the middle of the draft, I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him. But it also depends on where he goes and who the coordinator and the quarterback coach is, and that'll really show if the development is going to be there or not.
So that's what I'm gonna do this weekend is kind of break down them two games, see who I thought stood out. I've not really sat down and looked at the Shine game yet. I didn't have time to watch it, but I
Right.
definitely have it lined up. Um, I
Yeah, I
definitely,
would like to hear yours because those are the ones that I thought actually stood out a little bit.
yeah. So I was gonna plan on sitting down Saturday watching that game, and then also watching the actual Oh God, Senior Bowl.
Oh
So,
yeah, I'm definitely gonna have a Senior Bowl on tomorrow.
oh yeah, it'd be definitely on here too. And then after that, I'm gonna break the film down on the other bowl game, and then kind of just see who I think stood out, and kind of read through what the NFL scouts are looking for, because that's going to also kind of trigger me. Should I be looking at this guy? Is he going to have a potential chance of getting picked, and where is he going to get picked? Um, so we're going to be talking about the rookie running backs today. So this is going to be interesting. I mean, I think we're going to be pretty much in consensus on a lot of it. I mean,
Right.
but then we might disagree on some, but we always do. Ashton Jentney,
It
I
wouldn't
believe.
be it wouldn't be much of a podcast if we didn't.
Oh yeah, if we all agreed, yeah, it would be.
At least we don't get too out of hand like ESPN. Oh,
Let's talk about the bad boys. Uh, Ashton Jentney. So right now, I can agree with you that Ashton Jentney needs to be in tier one. And to just say face of argument for right now, even though I feel like a few should move up in that spot,
uh huh.
but I honestly want to wait until after the combine to have that argument, because I think then we'll actually get a clearer picture of where these guys are going to land and who they're going to, and have a better understanding. But that leads me into tier two. I think this is where we're going to have a fun kind of mauling at a little bit. Um, I'm gonna be honest, with more and more stuff I see and the more and more stuff I read about the guy and what I know and how he plays. Um, I'm definitely wanting to put Trevion Henderson in tier two. And I honestly believe, and I know you might think it's a little too early to predict this, but I think you could probably look at he'll also actually go in the first round of the draft. But with that being said, I'm only reading on information I know that's been put out by NFL scouts and what I know of them. And I believe if they're thinking the same thing I always thought of them, but I knew they were also concerned about his injuries because he was injury prone when he played at Ohio State. But at the end of the day, they're looking at that back that can run, block, and do all the great stuff, and he's right there with it. I mean, he is a guy that you could put on the field and keep on the field. I would wait and see how it all pans out. The combine before I would go any further than that. But I have a strong feeling if he does not go in the first round, he'll go in the beginning of the second round, day two, like right then. So the other guy I believe that should be in there is Caleb Johnson from Iowa, Dylan Sampson, Tennessee. I think both of them had standout years. Yeah, I mean, he if you watched him play at Tennessee, I mean, he's a third down back. He's a workhorse. I mean, he can punch the hole. I mean, I kind of believe he needs to be there. And Caleb Johnson has proved himself at Iowa. So, how do you feel about that so far?
Okay, so Trevion Henderson, I do agree with you. He's probably going to be in the second round though, because this year is so defensive heavy, and looking at all the defensive players coming out, and I've then looked at several different mock drafts from several different experts. Um, it's really a heavy defensive class this year. So I think the only reason why he would get put into the second round is due to the fact that, a lot of these teams are drafting defensive players this year than more than they did last year. But I'm willing to put him in the second tier. I definitely want Dylan Sampson in there because he was a touchdown machine in Tennessee. Caleb Johnson, I do agree with that. I would want to keep him. I really want to throw in the North Carolina kid though. I don't know if you said his name or not, but I really want to put him in there because I think he has played exceptionally well too this year. But other
Well,
than that, I agree with most of the majority of what you've said. Really,
so let's break down Hampton. And I'm not saying I disagree with you, because I kind of feel like you on that, but I also kind of wanted to wait until you brought his name up. And it's not that I'm gonna pick at him. I'm not, because he did do exceptional this year. But let's just kind of look at his overall performance. The last 2 years, he's had over 1,000 yards rushing, receiving. Each year, he improved by 100. So this last year, he had 1,660 yards rushing, and then he received 373 yards and had 38 receptions. Average yard return on the ball was 9.8 for receiving, and for rushing at 5.9, which is really ideal for a run back. I mean that is an that's what you call a rounded running back. I mean he's not heavy on the receiving. He's definitely a horse pushing the ball down the field, and both sides of it, he's averaging over 5 yards a touch. That is great. I mean, you can't argue that. He had 17 touchdowns, which was one more touchdown than he did in 23. He had 16 in 23 total. Um, we can't really count 22. 22 is his freshman year. I mean, even his freshman year, he had over 400 yards rushing, which is pretty impressive for your like. If you're not, if you're, he was probably
He also had a total combined of 7 touchdowns that year too.
yeah, he had a few opportunities. I was going to get to that. So, yeah, I'm totally agreeing with that. I just wanted to break one of the running backs down from this group, and I thought he would be the most interesting one out of the group because honestly, I don't know if a lot of people, if they're not paying attention to North Carolina or the ACC, this guy might go overlooked, and you might only hear him in like little podcasts and stuff. You're like, who's
I
that guy? And I think it needs a little bit more attention. I mean, we've heard of Dylan Sampson. We've heard of Trevion Henderson. We know what these guys do, but what does Hampton do?
I think Hampton's gonna go in the second round too.
I honestly believe out of them four quarterbacks we name, and this is just my viewpoint, before the second round end, you're going to see Ashton Jentney gone. Before you also see Trevor
I
on.
I
I'm saying he's probably going to go in the first round. I'm not saying that he's not. He's not. I'm just saying after the first and the second round, I believe these four running backs will be gone, and I think everybody else will follow after that. I would love to see Caleb Johnson go in the second round, but I have a feeling it'll probably be third round. But I do see Dylan Sampson. I do see Hampton. I do see Trevion Henderson, and I do see Ashton Jentney. I see all four of them gone before the second round is completed. And I think a lot of it is like what you said. It's heavy on the defense. The building O lines up, so you've got a lot of offensive linemen. And I just that side of the because you got a little sprinkle of these quarterbacks that are going to be in there. I just feel like we're only going to see about four of them running back. What do you feel?
well, I think I think Ashton Genty is not gonna get out of the first round. Whether we do the right thing and we actually take him, or if he falls, I mean, most people believe he is going to be in the first round regardless.
I agree. I think
So he's going to go out in the first round, and then I think Hampton, Johnson, Sampson, and even Henderson. There, I can see them all going in the second round. One of them is going to be a late second rounder though, because there's still going to be other positions teams are going to go after too. But I think most of them they have a fighting chance of all being in the second round, regardless if it's early, mid, or late.
I agree. So I think we could safely just stop tier one and tier two right there, go into tier three. Even though I could argue he could be in tier two with them, but I also believe he should also lead tier three because it's like really tier two and tier three are kind of like a together group in a way, but it's just like levels. And I believe Quinshawn Junkins, the other Ohio State running back, should lead that off. And Mullins from Michigan should be in there. And Devin Neal from Kansas, I think, should also be in there. And Jordan James from Oregon. We might
I
talk
th-
about him in a minute.
I think he needs to be in there.
So that's gonna be our. I would actually like to talk about two of these running backs, and it's gonna be the running backs that are not normally called out. I honestly believe if we were talking tier three, we would also be considering Nicholas Singleton, Penn State. But at this moment in time, I think he has declared that he's going to return to Penn State per the last article I read. He's not declared for the draft. So I don't think we're going to include him in this tier until we get further information, but I think he is returning to Penn State for his senior year. Good for him. I think next year he'll be a running back you need to look at,
Mm.
especially if he has the same season he had this year. I mean, he is a powerful, powerful, and a painful back to deal with. Um, I don't know if we give him enough justice sometimes at what he has done. But yes, I do agree with you on Jordan James, even though I want to be a little bit tough and try to be mean because he plays with the Ducks. But I got to give respect where. And look, you can't say it's too much favoritism because I threw a Michigan guy out there, so you guys should show me some respect.
Well, you're lucky that I have Henderson and Junkins so close, or I'd be arguing with you in a heartbeat.
I know
So,
you would be.
but I have them pretty damn close together. So right now you're safe.
Yeah, I seen that and I felt relieved when I opened your list. I was worried about that. I was worried of how you're going to judge 2,000 backyard running backs and how you're going to rate them because honestly, I think if any of them two were by themselves, they would be higher up than what they considered now. I think that because they would have had more carries, more yardage, more
Well,
show.
I get it. I just,
But I
I
also
just,
believe injuries could have happened because that is a plague that Ohio State has. They beat them running backs down. And the only ones that you don't ever see get it. Well, even Zeke Elliott, when he played for Ohio State, he got injured. I mean, so it was like we abuse our running backs with no hesitation. So it's like,
that is true.
so it's like I am glad in all aspects of that I love seeing these dual running back rooms. And I'll tell you right now, my favorite NFL team for dual running back would probably be Detroit Lions. You got David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs. Wow. I mean, that's just like, please stop.
Mm.
I mean, all right, who are we missing
Okay.
out of this group tier three here? I mean, we got Quinshon Junkins, Mullins from Michigan, Neal from Kansas, and James from Oregon. Um, what do you think? I really no. I don't think we should do that.
What do what? Say it, man. Maybe if I disagree or whatever, maybe I can persuade you, depending on what it is.
I was thinking the guy from South Carolina, Sanders, but on your list you got him all the way down to 14.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, that's what I was
The,
thinking.
o- the only other person I would actually try to argue, and this is not really a strong argument. This is just like, you know, if we're just trying to throw conversation. The only other person that would at least only have a little bit of a conversation with thrown in that list would be Rashard Smith. But if he doesn't get in tier two, I would like, or tier three, whichever one we're on right now. I would like for him to lead the next tier though.
I could actually. He was my second choice to put in there under. So I could go with that, throwing
Well,
him in tier three.
let's just throw him in there then, and then
So
I think we cut it off there.
yeah, so let's look at his college career. Let's see what this man has done. That's the key thing. What has Shard Smith done? And I'll tell you right now, watching the last couple games that he played in, it was impressive. I was like,
I
okay,
mean, from what I'm looking at, it's looking pretty good.
all right. So he kicked off his college career at Miami, and then he transferred on to SMU.
Mm.
So he started off as a wide receiver and changed over to a running back his last year in the ACC. So his 3 years at Miami, he was listed as a wide receiver. His first year as running back, he had over 1,000 yards, his 1,332 yards. He had 235 attempts. He averaged 5.7 a carry,
That's pretty
had
good.
14 rushing touchdowns. He had 4 receiving touchdowns, which gave him a total of 18 touchdowns. He had 39 receptions, 327 yards, and he averaged 8.4 a carry. Now, as a wide receiver, he occasionally took a few attempts. His last year at Miami, he had 9 attempts at rushing, 132 yards. Average carry was 14.7 yards, had 1 touchdown. His receiving, he had 22 receptions and only 263 yards. I don't think they were utilizing him correctly.
Mm, mm.
Because I mean, he didn't look like that at SMU. I mean,
He
and
looked
it,
pretty. He looked pretty good at SMU.
yeah, I mean, now, well, look, I can't say that about a size because then we'd throw in the Jamar Gibbs argument.
No, we're not. We're
No, we're
not
not.
doing this. We gotta get rid of that crap. We're not gonna
Yeah,
be doing that. That's already done been proven for the past 2 years. Size don't matter.
that's
So
right. So I'm
let's
not even going to
just
bring it up. But he is only 5'10", 194 pounds. But let's look at Jamar Gibbs. He ended up measuring 5'9", and uh, I think he was like 195 when he came out in the NFL. But hey, look at him. I mean, you can't touch the kid. You can't touch him. I mean, he's a beast. And when you do touch him, he breaks away from tackles and just runs. And it's like, when is he going to stop? I mean, please. I mean, I don't even understand how teams can deal with it when they walk on the field with him. Uh,
yeah.
and then you got David Montgomery there. He's like massive and he's bulldozing people over. So it's like, okay. All right, I'm good with that. I don't have an
Yeah.
argument.
They have Jamari Gibbs listed as 5'9" and just right at 200 pounds. And that's like as of right now. So he was actually probably lower than 200 when he
Oh,
came out.
he was 195 when he came out. I remember all that. So Kansas has a who we just talked about, Devin Neal. We also put him in the tier three. There's really no reason to talk about Quinshawn Junkins and Mullins and Jordan James because if you guys are familiar with college football, you know these three running backs are just who they are. But let's talk about Devin Neal right now for Kansas. What has he done to get his recognition to be like someone that hit our tier list? Well, let me tell you. He was a senior with Kansas. He had 219 attempts. He ran for 1,266 yards. He averaged 5.8 a carry. Had 16 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. He had a total of 17 because he had one receiving. He had 24 receptions, 254 yards, was averaging 10.6 yards a carry with the ball. That's pretty impressive. So yards, you can't
Yeah,
argue that.
he had 3 straight 1,000 yard rushing seasons.
So like what
Pretty
I'm
impressive.
Yeah, when you break that apart, okay, for his last three seasons, total scrimmage, okay, okay, all of them's been over 200 plays. The max is 243. He has averaged consistency of 6.3 yards a touch. So 6.3 is 2022, 6.6 2023, and in 2024 6.3. So if you kind of correlate that to fantasy points, yeah, that's every time he touched the ball, that's 6 points. That's pretty good. I mean, and if he touches it more than once or twice, you're talking 12 points. He scores a touchdown, you get the touchdown points. So now you're talking 20 points. I mean,
Yep.
he's the guy you want to draft. I mean, he's if he gets on a team and he gets a starting position, any of these guys we're naming, they're all like this. They get the ball, they go.
It's a.
So
I think it's a pretty good. I think it's an underrated running back room that because not that many people are talking about it since they're talking about all the defensive players and stuff this year. But this group is really going to surprise a lot of people.
I think it's going to be that group, and it's going to be nice because you remember Jonathan Taylor kind of came out in a group like that, and I
Yep.
drafted him because a lot of people are like, "Why are you picking him up so early?" I'm like, "I won a championship, baby, won a championship." So I mean, it's sometimes it's good that they're underrated, especially if you're paying attention, because then you're like, okay, I got an opportunity here to, especially in a dynasty league. If you get a gem like that at a dynasty league, oh, because that's the hardest. That is one of the hardest positions to maintain on a dynasty team as a running back.
Yeah.
So
Especially
if
because
you,
they get hurt during the year most of the time too. So you have to really pay attention to running backs a lot more than you other positions.
all right, so that's going to lead us into tier four, and we ain't forgot about the great Cam Skidaboo. Uh, I'm
He's got to
definitely
lead.
He's got to lead this. This guy from Arizona State, he can do it all. He can catch, he can run, he can. Oh my God! Please stop. What's he doing? And then he gets that mean look, like you tackle him, he don't. You can rip his helmet off, and he'll stare down the crowd like, "Come on, I want more." I mean, you got to love that kind of heart. I mean,
Mm.
I don't care who you are. If you're watching a football game, the guy's helmet gets ripped off, and he's like staring up there like, I got this." So I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, baby. That's some football. Uh, yeah, so we're definitely got to lead him off into tier four here. So that's Cam Skidaboo from Arizona. So next, oh God, let's see who we got here. I guess this is where I'm going to throw in my guy, Raheem Sanders from South Carolina. I think he should be in tier four.
I'm good with that.
And then Tajay Brooks from Texas Tech. We can't forget about him. I think they all should be come together.
Right. I'm gonna throw in one more, and you're gonna hate it.
No, I might not. Go ahead and give me him.
I think we should at least throw. I think I'm gonna say. I might butcher his first name, but Khalil Mullins, however you say his first name.
Oh, we have him up in tier three.
Oh, we
Mullins.
did.
Yeah, I put him
Okay.
in tier three. Hey,
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
won't say the name, the team
that's
he played for, but the guy's a good running back.
okay. Well, let's see.
I mean,
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I think we.
I
I
think
think
we're
that.
good with tier four.
I think tier four is just gonna be a short list.
I think we are going to go with the short list on tier four. But before we go breaking off on tier four, let's take a look at one of these outstanding players, right? So why was I high up on Sanders? I think because everybody knows this Cam Skidaboo name now. I mean, you can't
Um,
forget what he did in the playoffs. I mean, he won the most valuable player award, and their team didn't even win. So that just tells you the ability this kid had. I mean, it was like, wow. So we go over here. Let's look at this guy's stats. See what he done at South Carolina. I'm pulling him up a little slow. Sometimes I'm fast. Sometimes it just depends on my finger movements. You know, sometimes you exercise it, and sometimes you don't. That didn't sound right either. Uh,
just stop.
I will. So he started his great career off at Arkansas. Guess he couldn't trigger anything. Now he didn't have 1,000 yards, but total scrimmage he did have 1,000 yards. So he had 881 rushing yards. 12 played in 12 games. And he had 183 attempts. He averaged 4.8 yards for rushing. So yeah, I guess you're right. You made a good choice of not letting me put him in tier three. So but he did like everybody else in the receiving, had 27 receptions, 316 yards, averaged 11.7 a carry. For total scrimmage, pretty good average, 5.7, and he had a total of 13 touchdowns. So he played 3 years at Arkansas, 1 year at South Carolina.
Wait. So where do we want? What did you say you want Brooks at? And the tier four?
Tajay Brooks,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I'm looking at his stats right now. I think we should bump him up to actually three. Have you go look at his stats again and see if you disagree with me? Especially he had 1,500 yards back to back years.
Yeah, I see.
Holy
Well,
cow!
let's do that. Let's go ahead and
He has 17 touchdowns.
we are going to add him.
Average 5.3.
Well, see, his average total scrimmage is only 5 yards versus everybody else is above six.
Yeah,
But
but
still, that's a lot of yards. I
1,500
do agree, but
yards
it took
back
more
to back,
attempts. Yeah, I know, but
back to
yes,
back, but still
I,
attempts
yeah,
are not. If you can get over 5 point, if you can get over 5 points a carry, doesn't matter if it's point three, point whatever, that's good.
okay,
If you have 290 attempts and if you're getting like 4.7 or 3.7, that's when you really need to be concerned. But if it's five and higher, in NFL, all the running backs have averaged around 5 point something
that is
in the
true.
league. So that's the only one I would think we should at least jump up to three.
Okay, I'm good with that. You
And
see, Scannaboo, he only had that 1 year where he had 1,711 yards. Um, but he did it all across the board. But the year before, he didn't have that same performance. I, I'm fine with him starting off at 4. Let's keep him at starting
yeah,
off at 4.
yeah, let's keep him at 4.
And we got Raheem Sanders with him. And I think
Uh,
now we just lead into 5. I think 5 should now start because I think now we're starting to fall out of well, I don't know. We might have forgot someone. We got Levon
can
Moss.
I throw a vote and at least throw in Levon Moss to take
Well, that's who I just said.
Tajay
Levon.
Brooks' spot in tier 4 because he's got around the average stats as Raheem Sanders.
Yes, he's averaging 6.9, but he total scrimmage is 906 yards. Yeah, I mean, I'm whether yeah, okay,
We'll
I could
just do
see that.
that and that's it.
All
Just
right,
do that and that's it.
I'm good. We'll put him in tier 4, and
Right,
he'll end
and
it out.
I'm good. I'm good.
Uh, so looking at Levon Moss, drive him here. We'll drop him over here. Oh, lordy, here we go. All right, so let's just stop for a second, see what we got.
Okay.
We're not gonna go break any details with these players because we've done covered a lot of information on them. But we got Ashton Jentney by himself right now in tier 1. I think closer to the draft that'll probably change. Trevion Henderson for Ohio State leading off 2 with Dylan Sampson, Tennessee, Caleb Johnson, Iowa, and old Mary Hampton from North Carolina. Then 3 you have Quinshon Junkins, Mullins, Neal, James, Smith, and Brooks. Number 5 you have Scattaboo, Sanders, and Moss. So no, number 4. I'm sorry, tier 4. So now we're starting off tier 5. So looking at tier 5, I think it's just simple. It's not
Mm-hmm.
really hard to decide who's going to be the next guy. I believe we'll probably put Ollie Gordon. Now he's had some issues this year, but in previous past he has been a standout running back.
I'm good with that.
So they didn't bring him up. Hold on, I had his stats. Now I got to find them. Here we go. Ooh, lordy, Oklahoma State. All right, so 23, he was balling. 23 had 1,732 rushing yards, 285 attempts, averaged 6.1 a carry, had 21 touchdowns. Receiving side, he had 39 receptions, 330 yards, average of 8.5 yards return, had 1 touchdown. So total for that year, he had a 6.4 average every time he touched the ball, which was 324 plays, and he had
All
22
right.
touchdowns.
All right. Now let's talk about last year.
That was 23. Now
Yeah. Let's,
24, he kind of fell off just a little bit. Well, maybe a little bit more than a little bit.
it's a little bit more than a little bit.
Well, he had half of the attempts almost. He had 190 attempts, 880 yards, averaged 4.6 a carry,
Mm.
had 13 touchdowns. Receptions, he had 29, averaged 6.2 yards, had 1 touchdown, so had a total of 14 touchdowns. He did have a total of scrimmage yards over 1,000 this year. So for someone like that, I believe that's fair enough to put him starting off tier 5. Because most of the guys we're going to talk about are going to have similar stats and within that range. We might have a few that we missed that have greater rate stats than that, and we might need to look at them later. Uh, the next one I have is Tootin from Virginia Tech. What do you
You
think?
you saved me the time of bringing him up, so I agree.
You do agree?
Yep.
All right. So let's see how comparison these two is. These two backs. And I'll tell you, one time we tried to advertise this show and we were accused of saying Russian. So we are not referring to Russians. We are referring to running backs. If my accent didn't get that right, I'm sorry. Uh,
Running back
running
is
backs.
totally different.
RBs. Uh, So actually, he had a better season this year. He kind of had like almost a swap year, like Ollie Gordon, but not as good as Ollie Gordon because this year, his senior year, he had 183 attempts, 1,159 yards total rushing, averaging 6.3 a carry, 15 touchdowns. Pretty impressive. Receiving side, not so much. Don't touch the ball. Well, I don't say he doesn't touch it as much because he did receive it 23 times, but only 81 yards. Average return 3.5 yards. Had two touchdowns. That tells me it was more like probably goal line incident, like when they utilize that. Total scrimmage yards both years has been over 1,000 yards. He has a lot of potential. There's a lot of things in there that says, hey, this guy could be good. So I definitely would keep him under your radar, see where he lands. He could be one of those surprising backs that come in behind another back and do like a blowout day like Jerome Ford did or Mason did during when Christian McCaffrey went out. That's the kind of back you're looking at. He could get that opportunity and then shock you. Be like, oh man, I need him on my bench. And then after that, when they're done with him, they put him back on the bench. But doesn't mean one day he's not going to get a starting position. Just depends on how the career lands and where he lands in the NFL. Um, and how he holds up in the NFL. That's a lot too. I mean, NFL is different than college. So the next back I'm gonna mention is out of Arkansas, Jackson. What do you think?
Yep.
You agree?
I was good that yeah, I got one I want to mention.
All right, let me get you one.
Okay, I would like to throw my hat in for Phil Maffa from Clemson.
Oh, you like Phil Maffa.
Well, looking at his stats right now, he had 216 carries. He had 1,115 yards, averaged 5.2 on the ground, had 8 rushing touchdowns. In the air, he's kind of like the other backs that we just talked about, only had 21 receptions, 103, but he averaged 4.9 in the air. So, in all honesty, he averages around what these other running backs we just talked about, like Ollie Gordon and Jackson and Tootin. So, it's the reason why I think we should at least consider throwing him in there.
I totally agree with you. So I'm good with putting him in. But not just him. We also need to add another good running back, and that's DJ Giddens from Kansas State, because
I'm good with that.
he's had 2 years now over 1,000 yards rushing. Um, Receiving, he's just as good, just as many carries as everybody else, averaging over 11.1. His total average right now, yes, he's up there with the other ones that are in tier three, but we do have him down lower. I think he's more of a surprise back. His size is not that bad.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a 6'1" guy, but yeah, I think he's going to be more down like a third down guy. Um, I don't think I believe you'll see him in a dual situation. I don't think see him as a single back
I
on a team.
I can see him going to a situation kind of like he looks like a good running back, but from everything I have been seeing and stuff, he could have a situation like the whole Braylon Allen last year situation where he gets drafted, but in front of him is a young, athletic, first round running back. Because Braylon Allen's got drafted to the Jets, and Brees Hall was in front of him. So I can definitely see this path being DJ Gideon's because you at least have one, two, possibly three running backs like this in the later rounds that go to a team that's already got a star or something.
Like going to the Lions or someone as a backup in case of an injury.
Right. So that's the
Mm.
reason why I have him that low is because I see his path in the NFL kind of going like that. Now I could be wrong, obviously, but it's just my opinion on it.
And I actually see the same thing you're seeing. That's what I believe is going to happen. He's going to get drafted to a team like that. He's going to sit behind. Even if he got like, say, he got drafted to Philadelphia, he still has
He still got
Shapley from
uh,
Will from
oh
Clemson there.
oh yeah, Shipley and
Yeah, I
well, you
mean,
also got You also got Kenneth Gainwell, who they've
Yeah,
been using this year too.
yeah, but he's more of a senior guy that's going to be slowly going out. But yeah, so that's definitely interesting right there. So let's look at this. So right now we're up to tier five. Um, Now we're pulling straws for great running backs. Really not. There's other great running backs that are coming out. Let me tell you guys, this class is a little deeper than a lot of people are letting on. I believe we're going to see that. Now, is all these guys going to be starters? No. I wish. I wish they'd change the whole. The running backs are injured prone and they're heavily injured prone, so that a lot of things could happen
Some are
quickly.
going to get opportunities because somebody got hurt, or some of it's going to be like Bucky Irving and Rashad White started as the number one guy, but then over time he started playing really well, and the Buccaneers had no choice but to give him more time, and he basically took over the starting role. You could have situations like that, or you could just downright have one where it's a running back competition because they drafted two rookies.
Right. This didn't copy over like I wanted it to because the next guy I'm going to put in starting off tier six. Yeah, Woody Marks from USC is my
Ah,
next
that's who
running
I was
back.
gonna say.
That's who you're going with too.
Yeah, that's who I was gonna say.
Is our next guy on the list. Joining him in the tier six is the guy from Rutgers, Kyle.
Monagay,
Yeah,
Monagai.
yeah,
We're gonna go with Monagai.
on a guy.
Yeah, if it's right or wrong, but that's the comment section can let us know.
You're like,
Um,
Jesus Christ, learn these guys' names, right?
I want to throw in one. I'm sure we'll have a little discussion on it, but then again, I could be wrong. Uh, I would like to throw in Trevor Etienne.
Ooh, I'm fine with that. For tier five, tier six, yeah, I'm good with that.
I mean, it's tier six. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like we're gonna like if I threw him at like tier four, we're not gonna like have a boxing match over it.
Now he's down at, he was invited to the Senior Bowl, so he's down there and he might shine. He might like come out
Well,
and
that's another reason why I also wanted to throw him at tier six to us is to keep people, kind of like on their radar because he could, you know, prove himself throughout this whole off season. So that's the reason why I just threw him in there.
and I think a lot of people are underestimating Devion Edwards from Michigan as a running back. Definitely believe he needs to be in tier six with these guys.
Just for you, I'll be okay with that.
I
Just
mean,
because it's you.
all right, so let's talk about him since he's going to be the shine of the tier six. The shine of the tier six. You like that, don't you?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So let's see. We're going to talk about the Michigan guy. I should be polite if I'm gonna name him right. I mean, I shouldn't call him that because we're not
You
in the
may,
season.
hey, yeah, you need to be respectful to them because
Yep,
yes,
yep,
you won a national championship, but you know who's still Big Ten's daddy.
yeah. So he shared the backfield with Mullins. Um,
Mm,
he had now see you can go either way with this on sharing the backfield. He did have a 900 yard in 2022. He had over 1,000 yard scrimmage with an average of 7.5 yards per play. And he had 158 plays in 2022. 23, it dropped down to 5.0 average total plays. And then he digressed a little bit more into 24. He went down to 4.6. I believe the way he was utilized the last 2 years was not like he was utilized in 2022. And then plus he had Mullins on the field with him. So it kind of just like he wasn't as much as a focus as a lot of people thought he would be. So if we bring up Mullins from Michigan, just kind of give you the perspective, the difference.
okay, I'm fine with that
Yeah, so
because I would like to name at least one more
I'm
guy.
I'm good. And see Mullins, I mean, even though we have him pretty high, and I mean he did have 900. 48 yards rushing, and he did average over 5.1. And the year before, he averaged 6.7. So he wasn't really utilized until 23 and 24. I mean, the other 3 years he was listed as a linebacker. So he played linebacker in 2020, 2021, 22. He went to running back in 2023. So he did a position change in college. So that's interesting
Mm.
knowledge that I wasn't even aware of until I looked that up. All right,
All
who do
right.
you want to add?
I want to add one more person.
All right, I'm good with that. One more person. Who are you gonna give me?
I want to throw out there Damian Martinez, the running back for Miami. He,
Miami's running back
he had
Martinez.
159 carries. He had 1,002 rushing yards. He averaged 6.3 rushing, which is pretty impressive for however many carries he had. He had 10 rushing touchdowns. he was used. He wasn't used as much, but they did use him a little bit in the receiving with 17 receptions and 204 yards. I think he would be. He kind of his stats kind of mirror everything with all the other people that we've mentioned in tier six. I think it would be a good last ending point for tier six.
Yeah, and after you had me looking at that, I kind of agree with you, but I also kind of believe that we need to take Edwards out of six and put him in seven. Because looking at the guys that we have in six compared to him, he would
I'm
be
good
more
with
of a
that.
he's more of a start of a seven. And then
I'm
that's no offense to. I think the reason why Edwards sticks in my head is every time Ohio State played against Michigan, I hear that guy's name called. Just flashbacks could be post stress or whatever. I don't know, but it's there.
no,
Uh,
I got you.
so anything Michigan makes me go a little bit insane. So I mean, and I think we're really doing disrespect to the guy, but I don't think we are. I think where we're fixing to put him might be where he needs to be. And that, I guess that's the next conversation we're going to have is R.J. Harvey for UFC. I mean, let's see here. So last year he had 1,577 yards, rushed average was 6.8. He had 22 rushing touchdowns. Um, Career wise, I think that's where I was kind of looking at it differently. I mean, he's on my radar, but it's like he's not like my standout guy. I'm not saying Harvey right now, but I'm saying he's a sleeper. He could move up.
Wow.
So yeah, he had over 1,000 yards the last 2 years. I mean, 14. Wow, I think
Yeah,
we might
he had
under.
he had 1,500. Oh, we gotta move. We gotta move him up.
Yeah, I feel like we don't even have him in the right area.
I think we need to put him at least
I
4.
believe. I believe. Okay, so let's just step back before we start doing. Um, yeah, I could see him being at four. Okay, I'm good with that. Well, let's do that. Let's move RJ to four. I wouldn't put him any higher than four right now because there's some question marks.
No, no, that's the reason why I think he should just be in 4 for now.
Yeah, that I can agree. That I can agree.
Because I mean, you can't, especially with back
You
to back.
can't put him with
I
Edwards.
mean,
He's a
man,
workhorse, and I
he
mean
really.
he has better stats to get it.
Let's just keep him at 4 for now.
Definitely. All right, so we kind of changed up some rankings and moved the guy to four. That's fine. Right now, we just got one guy in seven. So let's try to put two more guys in here, and we'll call. Let's see how many players we got so far.
All right, so
Right now, we got a total of 25 running backs listed. So all the way up to starting with one in let's say, how about Harry Parrish Jr. from Ole Miss? How do you feel about him?
that's who I was gonna suggest.
Yeah, I'm good with putting him in there. He had a pretty decent year last year. Um, he's almost equal to Edwards. He had not that much. Yeah, so he's definitely a tier seven guy. Now, guys, listen. We're doing this show. Me and Austin do a little research before we get in here. We name our top 20, but then we want to fill up a tier list of seven. So we're doing some research while we're on the show. I mean, we're kind of looking at other players we hadn't looked at yet, really seeing what other people seen we have our common players we've already picked out. We both have our top 20s and top 25s. And that's what we're based off of right now. So I mean, the only guy I don't have listed yet on this list that is in my top 25, and that's the next one I'm gonna mention. And and I believe that should round out seven, unless you have another player that you just think needs to be in our tier seven. I mean,
No, no. The only other person I was gonna throw out there if we needed to throw somebody was Ontario Brown from Northern Illinois, but that's since you said that we should round it off, that he's just a honorable mention guy, so I think we should be good.
we're saying Brown from
Yeah.
yeah, Northern Illinois. I forgot
Hmm.
about that kid. No,
Yeah.
honestly, I think we should put him in that list.
Well, let's just throw him at 7 then.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, he was actually a pretty decent player. Yeah, I forgot all about it. Antonio Terrio Brown, uh, Northern Illinois. He's a workhorse too. He has about the same record as Devian Brown, so I mean, he's in the right category.
Right.
Uh, I said Devian, De, De, Edwards. I'm sorry. Good God, put two guys' names together. I'm really losing my mind. Uh, But who said I hadn't lost my mind already? I mean, we'd be lying. So the other guy I wanted to put in here was Williams from Florida State. So the reason why I say,
Hey, what
well,
about
I
go
was,
look at go look at Jarquez Hunter and tell me what you think about him.
see, the reason why I thought of Williams is when he played for Alabama. He had close to 500 rushing yards and he looked good, but when he got down to Florida, he didn't do anything.
Right. Well, go look at Jarquez Hunter because I think he needs to be somewhere.
You're saying Hunter.
Hmm. Just go look.
Well, I'm looking at him. I'm pulling him up right now. So we got this guy from Auburn. Oh, definitely. We can round off the tier seven with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a pretty steady season. He's increased from 2021 to 24. He went from 593 rushing yards to 1,201 rushing yards. He kept an average of carry of a 6.0, probably overall 6.3. Total scrimmages
Wow.
total average is 6.5. Oh, that's a pretty impressive for his whole career. Oh wow, this kid is pretty good. Well, not I say yeah,
He's
we'll put him
he's
at the beginning of tier seven.
he's
He,
definitely a sleeper.
yeah, he's definitely a sleeper that would definitely show prospects and would definitely be a good pickup if he lands on a good NFL team. Uh, Chances of all these guys going into the draft, ugh, I mean, I know there's a lot of players draft, but you'd be surprised. You got all these different positions they draft, so I mean, I don't know if you'd see 25 or 26 running backs get drafted.
No, but it's best to have a big list to keep your eye on, though.
Yeah, this is just a beginning list, so let's end it there. We could keep adding on. There's a lot more players going out. Now, he was invited to the Senior Bowl, so he could come out and show out and draw some attention to himself. Um, See where it goes, see how that turns out for him. So, just starting off, we got our tier one, Ashton Jentney, tier two, Henderson, Sampson, Johnson, and Hampton. Three, Junkins, Mullen, Neal, and James, Smith, and Brooks. Um, Number four, Scattaboo, Sanders, Moss, and Harvey. Number five, Gordon, Tootin, Jackson, Moffa, and Giddens. Number six, Marks, Kyle, Monagai, and Etienne and Martinez. Um, Number seven, Edwards, Parrish, Brown, and Hunter. So that's our rookies for 2025. I do believe that first two tiers, well, actually, everybody in them first four will probably could could
It's
probably
gonna fluctuate.
yeah, it's going to fluctuate. But yeah, I think I'm happy with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty content with it.
All right, so next week we'll cover we'll do
The NFL
NF,
running backs.
the NFL running backs, and then what we'll do is after because a lot of stuff's going to be happening. Like we're slowly we'll probably get this year we'll probably get through all the positions before the combine. Combine what starts?
And it's in March.
Yeah, so we'll
It's either
probably
in yeah, it's in March.
end of March, beginning of
Yep.
April. So we'll definitely get a lot of these done. Um, I know a lot of them are going to change once the combine gets here, and once we start understanding a little bit more feel of the NFL personnel where they land on these players. And you go, well, why does that matter? I'm gonna tell you why it matters. Because if they don't get drafted to the team and they don't play on the team, they're not gonna matter in your fantasy. So I mean, I hate it for the guys that don't get drafted or have something successful happen for them. But at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to build is a dynasty in fantasy and who we can get, and they have to be relevant in the NFL. So if they get drafted and they're a backup, they might not be relevant your first year you have them. They might not become relevant to your second year and sometimes your third year. Just depending on who gets picked and when they get picked. And then some people get picked and you don't ever think they're going to be relevant and they become relevant. Like Karen Williams, I mean, he became relevant. I mean, did not see it coming, but he did it. So
Right.
Cam Akers didn't perform, he performed, and there you have it. So things like that could just like a switch. I mean, Christian McCaffrey went out. What did Mason do? He performed. Okay, so uh, Nick Chubbs went out. What did Ford do? No one knew Ford. I mean, a lot of people had him like he could probably perform. He had a great season with Cincinnati. He started at Alabama. He just wasn't the starter at Alabama, so he went to Cincinnati. And he played good with Cincinnati Bearcats. And then he ended up getting drafted. And then he got his opportunity when Chubbs went down. And he performed. He did what he was supposed to do and became relevant. I mean, and that's really how it works. Now you always have your stars like your Derrick Henry, your Barkleys, and them guys are always going to be there. Bijans. I mean, David Montgomery actually came out pretty hyped up. I mean, these were running backs that were studs in college, and they performed going into the NFL. And I believe some of the guys were naming Zeke Elliott, things like that. So I think we got a few of these guys coming out this year. I think we got a couple. So it would be interesting to where they land and who they play for. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I know when we get down to towards the tier 6 and 7, these guys are sleepers. They're these we're pulling straws when we start drawing 5, 6, and 7. I mean, you normally our top 4 tiers are who we're really focused on, and 5 is kind of like your borderline, and then 6 is kind of like okay, these are prospers possibilities. ETN. I mean, there's potential there. It just really depends on where the NFL places them. And if they can succeed. So that's definitely another thing. So if you guys like the content, please hit the like button and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. What do you always say?
Make sure you share because sharing is caring.
All right, we'll see you guys next week with the running backs from the NFL.